Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Olympics Day to everyone. I'm so excited for this series. Bienvenue à les Jeux Olympiques de Vente. I don't know if that was correct, but we're going to go with it. My name is Becc, and this is the Sales Olympics. So just so we have kind of a course set here, I'm going to outline what we're going to do. And when we're going to do it, I hope that everyone out there in LinkedIn land is doing amazingly. So I am live from Paris right now. The opening ceremonies start in about 3 hours. But first, we have to, of course, do the Sales Olympics before the opening ceremonies for the real Olympics. Anywho, my name is Becc. We're going to jump into the topics for today, but there are going to be 17 days of the Sales Olympics. So we're going to be doing every single day at 3 p.m. Paris time for 30 minutes. And what we're going to be doing is the 4x400 relay. Please excuse the pun. And we're going to pick 4 topics where we're going to dive in for 400 seconds. But I'm going to push everyone who's out there on LinkedIn. I have different minions, which on a side note means cute in French, which is pretty cute. So I have different minions that are around. Min is a good example, who are going to be fielding questions. So any comments, questions, etc., if you please put them in the chat. And I would love more interaction, the better. Please don't leave me up here alone. As much as I love self-righteous monologues, and believe me, I do, I would love for your interaction. So why don't we go ahead and get started for today. So the header topic is 4 litmus tests that the problem that you say you solve isn't an actual problem, isn't your buyer's real problem, and isn't a problem that's worth solving at all. So we're going to jump in here. We're going to do 400 seconds per lap. So why don't we get going with the first lap? Here we go. So lap number 1 is going to be the first problem that I see with people when they're trying to come up with their problem-centric statements or what problems they solve. They are approaching it from a product perspective, and they are leaving out, and this is one of the most difficult topics, I think, within SaaS for marketing organizations, sales organizations, product marketing organizations, is what freaking problem do I solve for my buyer? So I see a lot of organizations struggle with this, and one of the main punchlines, in my opinion, is that they're looking at it and saying, what 4 problems do we solve overall? And they're not considering per persona. So the persona is going to dictate the problem. And the reason for that is it is always going to be a problem is only going to be a problem in relationship to or in accordance with a metric. So anytime that you change metrics from persona to persona to persona, you change the problems that they want to solve. I'm not going to spend too much time here today, but essentially your persona has 3 different types of metrics. Lagging indicators are the final output that they're hired and fired to drive. Leading indicators, which are also known as coincidental indicators, which are used during the actual game to predict whether they're going to hit their lagging indicator. And if they don't believe that, to diagnose which leading indicator is the root cause. And once they've changed it, have they changed it in the right direction? Have they changed it enough? And have they changed it in a way that's going to hit their ultimate lagging indicator goal? And then you have a leading indicator, which is an input. So think of it in terms of football, or foot as they call it over here. So the lagging indicator would be points that are scored, who wins the game. The leading indicator would be the formation of the team. Let's say it's a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3, or the players that you put in the game. And a leading indicator is going to be percentage, possession percentage, how much they possess the ball, or shots on goal. So I'm going to go deeper in these tomorrow, actually in the metrics topic tomorrow. But the reason I bring these up is that a problem is only going to be a problem in accordance with something that's obstructing that persona from hitting one of those metrics. So if you group all the personas together, essentially you don't have any problems. So if I'm sales enablement, I'm going to solve problems in accordance with product adoption or training adoption, or time to first deal or time to full ramp. If I'm a sales VP, then I'm going to solve problems in accordance with close 1 ARR. If I'm an SDR leader, I'm going to solve problems in accordance with booked meetings. If I'm a marketing leader, I'm going to solve problems in accordance with MQL rate. So when I see an organization approaching the problem that they're trying to solve the first thing that they run into, basically minefield that they run into, is that they're trying to dictate out the 3 or 4 problems that they solve as a product, but they're irrelevant of, they're not in accordance with an actual persona in the metrics. So the first thing that you want to do whenever you're considering what problem you solve, so there's a difference between a pain and a problem. A pain is any negative experience that you have, and a problem is anything that you solve or solve for. So not all pains are problems, meaning not all negative experiences that you can actually do something about, and not all problems are painful yet. If I'm buying water today I'm going, let's say to a desert in 2 weeks, there is no pain in the present. I'm perfectly hydrated, but I'm buying something so that I don't run into a future pain that would be extremely painful. So when I'm thinking about the problems that I solve for the buyer, the first place to start, and if you're out there listening to this or watching this on LinkedIn, the first place that I would start is I would look for the buyers that I have. Let's say it's, customer success, marketing, HR, IT, sales, and sales enablement. And I would Google their metrics. So this is a really quick exercise, but I would just hit the plus tab and say KPIs for a sales leader. KPIs for HR, for instance, is employee retention, or customer success, KPIs for a customer success leader. And that is the bedrock of how they're dictating out what really a problem is. So I want you to think of it in terms of, I don't know if anyone out there, maybe I'm a little bit too old for this reference, or I'm showing my age with this reference, but I want you to imagine one of those 1990s pens with like 10 inks around the perimeter. So you have green, you have blue, you have black, you have red, you have yellow, you have orange, etc. And your product is in the middle. So anytime that you change your persona, you change the ink. If it's sales enablement, it's a red ink. And if it's sales, it's a black ink. And if it's marketing, it's a blue ink, et cetera, et cetera. So what you're changing there is you're changing the metric set that they are geared after achieving. So a problem is only going to be relationship to that. So if you have an organization and the problems aren't respective of the actual persona, then I would say that that's going to be the first place to start. So there are 3 types of indicators, and then we're going to go into lap 2. The 3 types of there's indicators, which just denote a sign of something. There's performance indicators, which is a sign of a performance-related topic. How well do they do? And then you have key performance indicators. Out of all of the performance indicators, which ones does this persona actually care about? So the fundamental, cathexis of how someone's dictating out a problem that they want to solve is going to be the metrics that they're metriced on. So if you want to look at your problem statements, that you have as an organization, and ask yourself the one question: does this problem set allow for different personas? So you should around have 3 business problems that you solve per persona, which we're going to get into what business problems are on a later date, I think on day 3. But do I have 3 to 4 business problems per persona that we solve for? I'm going to solve in accordance with close 1 ARR. I'm going to solve for things that prevent them from hitting their MQL goal. I'm going to solve for things that help them from getting their customer renewal goal. And this is how we do it. And this is what leading indicator we change to solve that problem. So I only have 10 seconds left. So I'm going to wrap it up with this. Find their metrics. And every problem is going to be in accordance with that. I think I hit the buzzer. I don't know if there's a buzzer. Full disclosure. Riz, that was a nice buzzer. Okay, so that was lap 1, which is it's irrespective of persona. So let's jump into lap 2. So lap 2, the problem that I see whenever people are trying to dictate out their problem statements is subjective language. So subjective language being defined as it is up to the interpretation of the buyer of whether they actually fit into that group. So high, low, ineffective, bad, good, inefficient, low quality, small, big, etc. So it's basically an adjective or an adverb that describes a process or a noun or a metric where the person is saying, do you have low open rates, for example? Well, the buyer doesn't know necessarily what low means. So you need to identify for the buyer, what do you actually mean? And when a buyer gives you a statement that says, like, I have a low open rate, the first thing that I would be wondering in my head is, what's low? What do you mean by low? So low to them might not be low to you. Low to them might be high in accordance with industry average. High to them might actually be quite low. High to them might be something that's actually causing a problem. And the only value that you can enter as the SDR prospector, whether that's via cold email, cold call, or discovery call, is an expertise in terms of how do you diagnose. So to be able to diagnose, I'm going to need an actual value behind that. So I'm going to give you an analogy. And let's see if people are, I'm seeing some comments come in here. So let's see if y'all don't mind jumping in here. Jeff, Victor, Ibrahim. So there's typically one habit that a doctor asks about, regardless of who the patient is. It's a daily habit that seems pretty negative, and they typically ask about this daily habit because it causes a lot of problems. I want to see if anyone in the chat can guess what that habit is. They ask if you do or don't do this thing because they want to figure out, because it causes a lot of problems and they can use it to diagnose. Let's see if anyone can guess what that is. So I'm going to give everyone about 10 seconds. So it's a negative. There you go. Jack got it. Hi, Jack. So excited to go to opening ceremonies with you tonight. So Jack, just kidding. Everyone's like, what? Okay, so smoking. James got it too. So I want y'all to role play with me for a second. A patient walks into the doctor's office. The doctor asks, I feel like I'm telling a knock-knock joke. Patient walks into the doctor's office and the doctor says, do you smoke? And I want you to imagine the patient says, yeah, just a little though. Does the doctor stop there? Do they take their word for it? Yes or no? Let's see what everyone has to say. James, Jack, Simon, Simon. The patient says, yeah, but I just smoke a little. Does the doctor take their word for it? Give everyone about 7 seconds. So I think that there's a little bit of a lag. So if yes, I want to hear a backing. What's a little? Perfect, James. No, they don't take just a little. And I want y'all to fill in here. But why do they not take their word for it? Why do they not take their word for it? So it's brilliant what y'all are saying in the chat. So what the doctor usually is after is does this person smoke enough to cause this condition? And I'm not banking on the fact that the patient knows what amount causes what condition. The expertise of the seller is to be able to diagnose that, just like it is a doctor. You can't access most medications because they're not confident necessarily that you can diagnose where you're actually at, what do you have, what conditions do you have and not have. So the most deadly conditions are the ones that people aren't aware of because they're not pain-based. So they can progress and progress and progress and progress because simply put, they didn't know that it existed. So when they ask a patient, do you smoke? And the patient says, just a little. Some of the questions, so Victor nailed it. He's like, they keep asking more questions. So they ask questions like Jack mentioned, how many packs per day? When's the last time you smoked? If you're like, oh, I used to smoke a while ago. You'd be like, how long ago did you smoke? How long did you smoke? How many cigarettes did you smoke per day on average? And even if you're like, oh, I don't really remember, or they'll start to bracket them. Was it 3? Was it 10? Was it 20? Because simply put, a doctor's ability is based on their accuracy within diagnosis. So what I'm going to challenge you with your problem statements is, so are you. So there's two sides of this. There's you asking questions in a certain way that you're defining what point would cause a problem typically. And the other side of this is you need to ask questions in a way that the process. If you say, do you have a small team? I'm like, what's small? If I say, do you have a marketing team of 5 people or less? That question I can answer. So a patient, their job isn't to know everything. Their job is to show up and to give their best answers of what is true and accurate so the doctor can use the information to diagnose it. So industry average open rate, for instance, is 50. Reply rate is 0.5 to 0.7. Not just rate. Crafting together my open rates. I'm not saying if you open rate, it's probably email deliverability. I would ask the question like, what's your open rate? Or if you have an open rate, anything less than 50%, let's say that this is within a marketing piece, then you have a very high likelihood that you have an email delivery. That's the truth. Essentially, the two sides of it with subjective language, if you're saying anything like high, low, increase, decrease, bad, they have a poor customer experience, I would say, does it take anything more than 2 days to get back to them whenever you come in for customer complaints? How many customer complaints do you have? So with all the terms that you give, you want to be not subjective and leave it up to them to interpret, but extremely definitive in the answers and the problems that you solve. Dang, name 2. Sorry, my main KPI is that I don't run into that timer, although I will say that this timer is actually quite pleasant. So I'm good with it. So those are the first 2 pieces of problems, but true to form, we're going to keep these. First one, we're after a persona. Your problem statement is after a persona. The second one is your terms, good, bad, high, low, increase, decrease, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go on to lap number 12. Lap number 3 is going to be the third litmus test that your problem-centric statements aren't problem-centric statements and certainly aren't a problem that your buyer actually wants or needs to solve, or that they'll realize that they need to solve, or that you'll realize that they need to solve, is that you're using benefit-centric language. This is the silent killer. When I look at problem-centric statements, and I look at quite a few, I'm not I can't tell you how many problem-centric statements I have looked through. I would say 98% of the time, they fall into the trap of benefit-centric language. So there's essentially 5 types of selling. There's product and feature-centric are the first 2. And this is patient walks into the doctor's office, doctor doesn't ask any questions, and just starts talking about the wonderful medications that they have, hoping that the patient will buy them, but they haven't asked any questions. Benefit-centric selling is patient walks into the doctor's office, doctor still doesn't ask any questions, but they just start talking about the generic upsides of taking the medication. Pain-centric is patient walks in the doctor's office, which is the 4th type, and the doctor starts asking questions this time, but around pain only. They're like, what hurts? My arm. How long has it hurt? For the last 3 weeks. What's the impact to you at home? Which is a simple movie. It's a bad question. I like how I switched to French whenever I'm like expressing something passionate. So what's the impact to you at home? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I guess that I can't play baseball with my son. What's your son's name? Timmy. What's little Timmy going to think when he has a father who wouldn't play baseball with him? And they're all self-diagnosis questions. And it's a goal of getting the prospect, manipulating them so that they believe that they need to buy more. And the last one is going to be problem-centric. We're going to save that topic for another day. We're going to dig deep there when you're selling according to problems. But in the third case, it's benefit-centric, which is the language that I see very, 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 very often in problem-centric. It's the generic upsides, the generic advantages, the generic things that they get by taking, poor Timmy, by taking the medication. So there's only 2 things that everyone wants more of, and that nobody has enough of. Let's see if everyone can guess it in the chat. James, Anthony. Everyone wants more of, that nobody has enough of. It's only 2 things. 5 to 10 seconds to guess them. So, brought to you What? There we go. Kirsten got it. Time and money. I like how Jeff said leads. Time and money. Those are the two benefits. Those are two generic things that nobody has enough of, that everyone wants more of. And when I say I see 99.9% of problem-centric statements here, I mean it. Save time, save money, more time, more money, wasted time, wasted money, leaving revenue on the table, inefficient. I'm like, that's just a fancy way to say wasted time. If you look back through your problem-centric statements and it has anything to do with time or money, and the only persona that this is an actual is going to be it's their time to be, and it's not still not their lagging indicator, but it's they need to be under budget and on the deadline. But project manager is their title. Anyone else, it is just a generic benefit. So an example would be you prescribe this medication, you haven't asked any questions. You're like, a nice side is you'll probably lose some weight. And you'll probably have, cleaner skin. Or your hair will be shinier. They're just generic upsides. But it is a litmus test to you that you are completely bereft of a problem, completely bereft of a metric, and completely bereft of a problem that your persona would actually solve. So best case scenario, it feels something that's extremely generic that everyone wants to have a little bit more of. I know that the big news over the last couple of weeks was the CrowdStrike outage. So those developers, the problem that they want, it's not more money. It's not that they spend less time developing code. The problem that they were trying to solve what is 14, save time. If it takes me 3 hours to write an email as an SDR, but I'm 4x past quota, it's the perfect amount of time, because the metric that I'm after is how do I actually drive more quota attainment. So I don't want to save time. Anytime that I'm buying something or I'm changing something, I have an inherent risk to me. So if I'm 4x past quota, but you approach me as a vendor and say, I could save time helping you write emails, my first thought is, number one, I don't have a problem because I'm 4x past quota. But the second thing that I'm thinking is, yeah, you're saying that, but if I do that, it might risk the fact that I stay 4x past quota. So, and football players so superstitious that they won't even change their socks. So someone's not going to change something unless they have a problem in accordance with their metric. So I used to cook all the time. Since I started Flip the Script, I haven't cooked at all. Truly haven't even turned on my oven. So it wasn't too much time beforehand. It's not too much time, but it's too much time now because I can't hit my metric. So that is the third one, is going to be benefit-centric language. So kind of a review here, and then we're going to go into lap 4 and we're going to close out, and I'll see you all à demain. Tomorrow. Keep in mind, we're doing weekends too. Saturday, Sunday, every single day of the Olympics. So let's go into lap 4, which is going to be, I'm going to accompany 2 different topics in here. So lap 4 is the 4th biggest problem that I see with problem-centric statements, or what problem that you solve with your buyers, is solution-centric. So as I've kind of done workshops with groups, I have grown like anyone should. So in the beginning, I'd say, okay, just put your tactical problem, business problem, and root cause here, which we're going to go into what all that is. And then I noticed that people would say stuff like they would start absent of a persona. So all their persona business problem statements were the same. So then I adapted. I said, okay, so go do your business problem, tactical problem, and root cause. However, the business problems cannot be the same per persona. Anytime that you change personas, you have 3 different personas, all 3 of their business problems should be different. So they abided. But then I saw an adaptation. They adapted. They went to subjective language, high, low, increase, decrease, etc. And I said, okay, no subjective language, high, low, increase, decrease, more, better, faster, etc. So then I saw a lot of benefit-centric language, save time, save money, more money. Once I nailed out that, I'm like, okay, we're going to do our problem statements, no benefit-centric language, no subjective language, and it has to be different for every persona. And the last thing that I saw, and I'm going to give everyone credit, problem statements are hard. And the reason that they're hard is because, typically speaking, typiquement, we don't know our buyers' metrics. So the North Star of how someone is gearing all of their problems is going to be in accordance with their metric. So the first thing that you need to do is just to research what their metrics are. But the problem cannot be the absence of your solution. So typically I'll see people say, okay, if I can't do benefit-centric language, if I can't do solution-centric, or if I can't do subjective language, then what I'm going to talk about is that the root cause of this problem is the absence of my product. So what that will look like is this. They'll say, we work with organizations who don't have a centralized documentation process or a centralized repository for their teams. So that's very similar to saying, let's imagine that someone, they're trying to study, and leading indicator is they currently have C's and they want to get A's. And the business problem is they want to graduate with a GPA that's above 3.5. So root cause is the way that they're studying, the amount of books that they're studying. The tactical problem is the grade that they've had per courses. And the business problem is a GPA. They're currently at a 2.5. They need to get a 3.5 before graduation. So if you're going solution-centric, then what that would look like is the root cause is not the amount of books that you're studying or the way that you're incurring the information. The root cause is that you don't have me as a tutor. It's ridiculous whenever you think about it. The root cause is the absence of me. So this is the one of the biggest things that I see people putting into their problem-centric statements are that the root cause of the situation has everything to do with them not being there. So whenever you're trying to come up with your problem-centric statement, these are the first 4 rapid-fire tips that I would suggest ensuing. And then we're going to double down starting tomorrow with the metrics. If you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I get all that. I can't be subjective. I can't use benefit-centric. It needs to be in terms of a persona. And I understand it can't be the absence of my solution. But Becc, what the hell do I do then? This is what I would do. The first step is I would Google what metrics and KPIs is your buyer measured on. That's step 1. And a problem is only in relationship to that. Step 2 is I would Google the industry averages of those metrics. So the KPIs for an SDR is SQLs. The leading indicators are open rate, reply rate, call connect rate. And the leading indicators are the quality of the message, channel of the message, length of the message, text of the message, channel of the message, is it cold call, is it cold email, person you're sending it to, time of day you're sending it to, etc. So I would Google, the first thing is figure out what those metrics are for them. The second thing is figure out what the industry averages are for those. So industry average connect rate is 10%. Industry average open rate is 10 to, these are true percentages, 15 to 25%. Industry average reply rate is 0.5 to 0.7%. The third thing that I would do is research at what point do those values cause a problem typically. So anything less than a 50% open rate, there's an email deliverability problem. That's the truth. So I would research at what point is that usually a problem. Okay, typically speaking, if someone's eating any more than 3,000 calories per day, it's going to cause a weight gain issue. So the point that I'm looking for is, are they eating anything above 2,800 calories generally speaking? Now I need to know their height. I need to know their Gender, I need to know, what their weight loss goals are, how much weight are they trying to lose and by when. But no matter what, if you're ingesting 3,500 calories per day, you're probably gaining weight as a person. Michael Phelps is probably the only case that I can think of that wouldn't, right? And then the fourth thing that I would do is, and this is going to be the moneymaker that I would suggest for everyone who's listening, find out at what value do those metrics cause an unknown problem, one that people typically don't know. So the reason that 50% open rate is so valuable is when I rush in and I ask that and they say 20%, people typically don't know that only 59% of your actual emails wind up in the prospect's inbox. So the fourth step is find out at what point do those metrics cause an unknown problem for your prospect. And when you're in discovery, cold call or cold email, ask questions towards what those metrics are for them. That is it. That is my metric. Save time, save money, more time, more money. That is it for day one. So in kind of summary, and then we're going to close out here. Day one was on the 4 litmus tests of how you can figure out if what you're saying or what your problem-centric statements are crafted on aren't the problems that the buyer's trying to solve and aren't true problem statements at all. So the 4 laps were on you're either bereft of a persona in their metrics, you're using subjective language like more time, more money, save time, save money, or subjective language, high, low, increase, decrease, ineffective, good, bad, etc. The third one is your benefit-centric language, more time, more money, save money, etc., etc. And then the fourth one is that it cannot be the absence of you. That can't be the problem that they're trying to solve. So that is it for day one. Thank you so much for coming. I am so excited to continue the series. So we're going to be live every day at 3 p.m. Paris time for the next 17 days. And day 2, which is tomorrow, it's going to be kicking off at 3 p.m. CEST, is going to be on how to find the problem for your buyers in specific. And we're going to go really deep on metrics. Full disclosure, it's not the most fun topic, but if I had one topic to talk about that drives the most change for people and the people listening to your messages, it would be tomorrow. So au revoir to everyone. I'm going to head to the opening ceremonies now. So apparently it's supposed to rain, so I'll need a parapluie. I'll need an umbrella whenever I am out there. So I will take pictures, I will post on LinkedIn, and I will keep y'all abreast at every single step of the way. But opening ceremonies kick off in about 3.5 hours. So I'm going to be category C if anyone is watching the opening ceremony. So I'm going to be on the side of the Seine in the bleachers and looking for all the athletes or sportifs to come in on the boats floating down the Seine. So thank you so much for everyone for coming today, and I will see you tomorrow. So as always, I'm going to be annoying and speak Franglish. À demain. Et merci pour tout. I'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Bye-bye.